if you were to choose any person, musician, living or dead, and you were to spend 5 minutes with them, who would it be and why?
I think if I could choose anybody, I would probably choose, this is such a weird answer. I would probably choose Hildegard von Bingen because I just think that she lived such an amazing life. I mean, she like wrote like operas and plays, and she just was like doing it up with her gal friends in the 1100s. And she's just such an icon. And I would have the best time, I think, hanging out with her if there was an interpreter present.
What are some key things that you brought from a previous leadership experience that you're incorporating into the studio? And
Mhm.
how do you find this how do you see this as something as unique or exciting through this program?
Yeah. Oh, so much. So, I mean, I came to Gabriela Ortiz Composing Studio knowing that I knew how to put a program together. Of course, this is a different population than what I worked with previously, which was mostly high school students. But I think I was more drawing on my experience as a composer going to composition festivals and just kind of taking pieces here and there of like what I really liked and felt like worked very well. So like having the opportunity to write a piece and to workshop a piece, I felt like was really valuable. Having opportunities for to meet master composers, but also have work share opportunities with your peers. All of those things were things I experienced as a composer and felt like worked really well. And the thing that I think is really unique about our program is that it is just you can come in at a bunch of different levels of being a composer and still get like a lot out of the program. We're not asking you to come in with like a certain degree level or having accomplished something like getting a commission of a certain level. And so, or to write in a certain aesthetic either. So we have this cohort, as you know, 12 composers who are all different ages, different experience levels, and very different aesthetics. And I'm mostly just trying to put together a collection of people who I think would work well together and could learn from each other. Most composition degree programs are more focused on learning from the teachers. And, you have to take a lot of seminars that might not be super relevant to what you are studying. And so here we can be really focused. And, since it's all virtual, we also have the opportunity to bring in people who you would probably never get to bring into a physical university degree program. Like we had Nico Muley and Anna Klein in the last week. And then, we get to have folks from like Andrew Norman zooming in from California. And it's really cool. Like there's no other program that really does that. And that welcomes in this kind of diverse group of people.
Yeah, thank you for talking about that. And to continue off with like diversity, like one of my experiences throughout like this programs, I love how diverse our like experiences are and our compositions are within this program. And if you can speak on like the important how you find this like important in bringing to the composition program and like how you would like to expand this more in future years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think well, first of all, I think it's really boring to just be around other composers who are writing the same music as you, like really similar music. I just don't think that you're going to get pushed in the same way to think about questions. Whereas someone's like, I really don't care what notes are on the page, but I really care about the rhythms. And maybe that's like super different to the way that you think about music. And you're not going to start writing that way, but it might get your gears turning in a different way. So I think working with respectful composers who have very different styles is one of the, if not the number one most important thing when you're studying, to have like that group of community support. All of your peers, all of their experiences, those influence you. I found through my own experience, I did 3 degrees in composition, and I think some of the most valuable lessons I learned were from my peers, not from my teachers. Of course, I learned a lot from them as well, but you learn differently in peer learning situations. And so that was really a priority for me and continues to be a priority. I think moving forward, the diversity that I'd like to start to continue to build is more geographical diversity. Because I am an American, a lot of the people in my network are also American. And so the program, I think, tends to also be very attractive to American composers. And so I'd love to, and when I say American, of course, I mean like United States, not, I would love to include more composers from Latin America, from Europe, from South America. even Asia. It becomes challenging with the time difference in some places, but I would love to expand our geological or our geographical diversity.
Great. You said so many amazing things, and it just like it resonates a lot with me because having like the different like composers in our sessions, I feel like I am learning a lot from them too, as well as from the people who are coming in zooming in our sessions. And through our in-person residency, there's a lot that I learned from
Mhm.
everyone, and really, it was a really a wonderful experience and very open experience too. And it was very successful in that sense, not just with like Gabriela Ortiz being a really open composer, but also just having that, I think, safety amongst each other and just kind of like that reassurance
Mhm.
that like we do these things differently, but we're willing to learn from each other. And I think that's really
Oh,
beautiful.
good. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I really
Yeah.
felt like, I mean, this was our first residency, and I feel like it was so successful. I mean, of course, there are things that I'll alter in future years, but like on the whole, it really worked well. Like just seeing you all bond in person was so rewarding for me. And Gabriella, of course, is like such an amazing composer and pedagogue, and she had so many insightful things to say about your music and getting to work with the performers in person. I mean, that's like, of course, our program is mainly virtual, and I think it works. There's so much you can do virtually for composition education in particular. It's just a lot easier to share, but having the opportunity for some in-person connection, I think, kind of has made this program really special.
How do you really balance between like your life as like an arts leader, like whether in school and own academy, you composing, and also you as a cellist? How do you really find that balance, or is that something you shift over time? Or if you could talk a bit about
Definitely
that.
shifts over time, but it's I don't know. It feel the word balance is like really a hard thing for me to define because it's not possible to do everything. I'm doing a lot of things. So, like, I have this job with OAcademy. I have my own nonprofit, Wildflower, as you know. I teach composition at Temple. I'm also a church music director. I perform as a cellist, and then I have my own composing projects. And so, like, between all of those things, it's like it's not possible to maintain all of them at 100%. So, I think the thing for me that feels like the most critical, number one, is making sure I'm like enjoying every piece of it. If there's something that I'm not enjoying, then I'm like, it's time for that to go because I don't really have time to mess around. And then the second thing is to really just make sure I'm very organized with how I'm spending my time and knowing like what's most important to tackle when. The thing that's the easiest thing to lose track of is your own personal creative time. I recognize like there's going to be these peak times where I'm just really busy with more administrative things and making sure I can fulfill my responsibilities. And then when those lessen, especially over the summer is a big time when that happens, then I have time to catch up on my own personal stuff. And it feels really exciting to be able to get back to it. So it's nice in a way.
I do have another question about your role as like an artistic leader. Like, how did you get into it? When did you realize this is something that you want to continue throughout with your music career?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I ever like realized it in a formal sense. I mean, so before I came to OAcademy, I founded this nonprofit, Wildflower Composers, and that was like not. It kind of happened accidentally in a way. I was like driving one day and I was like, why is there no camp for young girl composers? And it just kind of came to me in that way, and so I started investigating what it would take to put it together. And, after the first festival, I was like, I think I want to keep doing this. It just felt really meaningful. And the work kind of built up from there. I think if I had just started right away being like, I'm founding a nonprofit, I might have been so overwhelmed with the amount of work it takes that I don't know if I would have followed through. I think it was because I felt like a strong desire to create like this vision and like fulfill the service that felt very personal for me, that it just became a nonprofit later. And now I'm just more maintaining it and continuing to build. And then with OAcademy, I, didn't have to do any ground up stuff, right? Because OAcademy already existed. But they did contact me and ask, we'd really love to start this composition program and we know you have experience with it. And so I don't know if I'm sure I wouldn't have been contacted if I hadn't already done some of that kinds of work before. Knowing like, being able to troubleshoot like what works and what doesn't. Of course, I've also been to a lot of festivals, so I know from that side what it feels like when something's working or not. And yeah, so really accidentally, I think is how I got into artistic administration. Um, but it's really so different from being a composer, and it's like so valuable in a different way. Like it feels like I'm able to facilitate opportunities for others. And it's really cool. And my network is so expanded now in a way that it never would have been if I was only writing my own music. And so it's been really enjoyable to just meet so many different people and get all of that input for me as well, like hearing all of your music.
That is so wonderful. I I think this is just all really amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I do have another question for you.
Yeah.
How do I want to phrase this? For someone who also would want, like, for, okay, it's more of like an advice question. Like, can you give
Okay.
us your advice on, for someone who would want to create another space, whether it's a nonprofit or an accidental wildflower um, composition studio that spawned,
Good.
what do you think are important qualities for someone who wants to take that leadership position and doesn't have experience in it? Like,
Hmm. So yeah, I think the first thing that I would think about is, what really is your goal? Like trying to codify your mission of like, why am I doing this? If you're just creating another summer festival, like how is it unique? Is there not one in your area, or is there not one for like this specific like demographic of people? What is like the niche that you're trying to fall into? And then I think the next step would be to try and find a little bit of support, whether that's through like two other people maybe you'd like to work with in a team setting, or maybe in my case, it was Temple University because they provided the space for free. And they also, like a faculty member there, was really integral in helping to just facilitate things on that side. So just figure out who your support team might be. And when you're figuring that out, I think it's also really important to assess your own skills and maybe your own deficiencies. So, like my skills, I'm very organized. I can put together a spreadsheet. I can, make a nice proposal. My weaknesses, at least very much at the start, I had never made a budget before. I had I'd never written a grant before. I didn't have any experience, kind of more on the like monetary financial side. Um, so like it's helpful to just know like what you're good at and what you might be missing, and then that can also inform like, oh well, my good friend who also believes in this is an accountant and can like help me with this. And you can just figure out where you might need a little bit of bolstering. And I would also suggest trying to start small, like just do a pilot version of something. It doesn't have to be like the full-fledged version of your mission, of your idea. Because it's really hard to get stuff off the ground unless you have like a really rich benefactor who's like, do whatever you want, here's $1 million. Like in that case, connect me, because I would love that. But yeah, in most situations, you're going to be working with a budget of $0, potentially with a little bit of like tuition for people who attend. So you want to just make it like really small scale, trying to do as cheaply as possible, but like without sacrificing your mission. So it's easier said than done. But as much in-kind support as you can get. So as much like if there's a venue who's like, I believe in your mission, you can use my space for free. Or like if you know someone in catering who's like, I can get you 50% off if you do it on this weekend, like just try and make it work as much as you can.
great. Thank you for your
Oh, and
advice.
my other piece of advice
Oh.
is to ask for advice, to keep asking for advice. So like the main thing that really helped me with Wildflower is I made a proposal of like, this is the mission and this is like when it'll be and all of that. And I would approach people who I really respected and be like, can you look at this and like tell me what's wrong? Like, what do you think? What am I missing? And I remember the specific occasion I met up with a executive director in Philly who kind of tore it apart. Like in not in like even like a bad way. He was just like, what are you going to do about this? This isn't listed here, and he just made me think about so many things that I had never thought about before. And I actually left that meeting really dejected because I was like, oh my God, I've never thought about all these things. Like, how am I going to do this? But after I had time to like emotionally recover, I was able to really improve the program because he pointed out all of these holes that I had not considered. And so the first year of the program went much more smoothly than it would have if he hadn't said anything. So ask a lot of people for advice.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I also have that that fear of like rejection away, whether it's like with like even through constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe going off a bit of that, how do you really combat that with like just how do you how do you continue believing in a project after you go through so many hurdles through it, or if you get like some sort of like if you hit some sort of wall with it, like how are you able to have that confidence to believe in something when it's a
It's
challenging
hard.
process?
You can't do it by yourself. You do need that support team. So whether that's like you're doing it with a team of maybe you have two friends who are helping you, or maybe you're doing it by yourself, but you form like an advisory board of people who like you just are like, I want to bounce some ideas off of you. Find other people who believe in it too, who can help you when you are having doubts because they're inevitable. You're gonna like get 5 grant rejections in a row, and you'll be like, oh, this is never gonna work. I'm so stupid for wasting my time. Like you're gonna like get down on it. So like you have to take precautions to begin with in order to make sure that you're able to have someone to lift you up when you're not feeling like you can get there yourself. What about you, Jennifer? Who would you pick, living or dead?
That is a challenging one. Musician, I guess, who's been on my mind lately is Chopin. I always been a fan of his piano works, and just I love how like romantic and like how beautiful like his how like seamless his voice leading is, and it's
Mm.
vaguely like very kind of like vaguely just like it bends the rules so much, and it's so exciting. I just want to know like, hey, what's going through your mind in doing this, and like
Mm.
I don't know, love
I
him.
bet he would have a great answer because he was apparently a very good teacher.
Oh,
So
cool.
he would probably be good at expressing that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you, Adriana. This was awesome.